Welcome to the next module of Total Body Blueprint. Last week we discussed weight loss and cardio strategies. In today's lesson, we'll cover resistance training, commonly referred to as weight training. Weight training is just as important to weight loss as cardio and can be defined as anaerobic training that involves lifting against a resistance. If you recall from the last video, we touched upon anaerobic threshold and how activity beyond the threshold cannot be sustained for long durations. This is unlike aerobic training, which can be performed for extended periods of time, like a marathon. Resistance can be provided in a variety of forms. Machines, free weights such as barbells, dumbbells, kettlebells, medicine balls, bands, household items like soup cans, and even your own body weight. Most people don't recognize the value of resistance training when it comes to weight loss, and more importantly, decreasing body fat. Gauging progress using the scale alone is not an effective approach. It doesn't tell the whole story. You're much better off monitoring your body composition, which is the percentage of lean body mass, including your muscle, bone, organs, connective tissue, and blood, and fat mass you're comprised of. When starting a weight loss program, clients of mine typically have an initial and rapid decrease in body weight. However, this begins to slow down later on, and we rely on measuring body fat percentage to assess progression. You see, you may not show a loss on the scale, but you could be altering your body composition, which trumps body weight. For example, you may lose 2 pounds of fat and gain 2 pounds of muscle in 1 month, but there's no change on the scale. Since muscle is denser than fat, it weighs more and takes up less space. If you click on the muscle and fat models link to the right of your screen, you'll get a visual of how compact each tissue is and how grotesque the fat tissue is. By simultaneously increasing lean body mass and decreasing body fat, you'll look much leaner and the scale is not going to even matter. When you build muscle, you also increase your resting metabolic rate. If you recall from the last module, this is the amount of calories you burn each day just for normal bodily functions. If you lied in bed all day long, this is what you'd expend in calories, your RMR. For every 1 pound of muscle, you burn 75 calories per day. And for every 1 pound of fat, you only burn 3 calories per day. Weight training is a crucial component to changing body composition, and it shouldn't be overlooked. The FitRx program I've designed is centered around this goal. It's not a bodybuilding plan with super high volumes or training frequencies, so don't fear getting bulked up with this program. Now let's delve into the nuts and bolts of resistance training. The first concept to consider when designing a workout routine is to make sure you target all the major muscle groups of the body. The back, upper and lower, chest, shoulders, which can be further divided into your anterior, medial, and posterior deltoid, trapezius, biceps, triceps, abs, which are part of your core, and legs, the quadriceps, hamstrings, and calves. Every muscle group has an opposing muscle group, the antagonist. These muscles work in opposition to one another. If you look at the biceps, for example, its function or joint action is elbow flexion or to bend the arm. The triceps muscle does the exact opposite. Its job is elbow extension to straighten the arm. If you don't target all the muscle groups, you inevitably develop imbalances in the body that can lead to injury. After all, you're only as strong as your weakest link. Other examples of antagonist muscle groups include the back and chest, quadriceps and hamstrings, and lower back and abs. Many guys have taken on that rounded shoulder appearance. This may be an implication that they're focusing heavily on chest exercises and neglecting their back. Pull down and rowing type movements for the back will improve your posture and ultimately make the chest appear bigger, as your shoulders will be in better alignment or retracted and not sloped forward, bringing better balance to the body. To ensure you're working all the muscle groups, you need to establish a training split, a cycling of your different workouts. A quote I like to live by is, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. The simplest training split is the full body routine. Here you train all the muscles of the body on the same day. We have to account for sufficient recovery periods between workout bouts. You should allow at least 48 hours between training the same muscle group. For instance, if you train on Monday, you should wait till Wednesday to train the same muscle groups again. Volume also dictates recovery time and should be considered in designing a training split. Volume is the product of the number of exercises, sets, and repetitions, or reps for short, you complete in a given workout. As a refresher, reps are the number of times you execute the movement from top to bottom. When you perform a squat by squatting down and then returning to a standing position, that's 1 rep. A series of reps completed, 5, 10, 15, or more, is 1 set. If you train your full body and you only perform one exercise with 3 sets of 10 reps for each muscle group, chances are you'll be adequately recovered 48 hours later. However, if you train with more volume, you may need more time between workouts. Bodybuilders, for example, train with high volumes, on average 3 or 4 exercises per muscle group with 3 or 4 sets for each exercise. If they devote one whole day, say Monday, to back and do wide grip pull downs, bent over barbell rows, one-arm dumbbell rows, and deadlifts, their latissimus dorsi, rhomboids, teres major, and erector spinae of the back aren't going to be recovered by Wednesday. So we have to consider volume when establishing our frequency and training split. The American College of Sports Medicine, or ACSM, recommends resistance training 2 to 3 times per week. There's a number of different ways you can break up your muscle groups. For beginners, I like the full body split. Persons that are more experienced would benefit more from more volume per workout. And I subscribe to push-pull and upper body, lower body splits for this purpose. Upper body and lower body splits are just that. One day you train your upper body, the other day you train your lower body. You can alternate workouts in this manner if you train more than twice per week. For example, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But since there are a considerable amount of more muscle groups to target in the upper body, I prefer the push-pull split. Here you train all your pushing muscles on one day and pulling muscles on the other. Muscles that do pushing actions are the chest, front and side deltoids of the shoulder, triceps, quadriceps, and calves. Pulling muscle groups include the upper and lower back, trapezius, rear deltoids, biceps, and hamstrings. Core can be trained on both days. When you divide the muscle groups up in this fashion, training the antagonists on opposite days, your volume will be better balanced for each workout. I've created various training splits throughout the 6-month FitRx program to prevent stagnation or boredom. As I said with the cardio component, more is not always better. Training too often can lead to overtraining, a state where you're prone to injury and your results can come to a screeching halt. When you're overtrained, you feel irritable and fatigued, your blood pressure can increase, and sleep can be disrupted. You should never train the same muscles that are still sore from a previous workout. That's a clear indication that you're not fully recovered. And just because your muscles aren't sore from a previous workout, what we call delayed onset muscle soreness, or DOMS, still doesn't necessarily mean you're fully recovered. Take volume and frequency in consideration when designing a training split, and above all, listen to your body. The body needs adequate time to recover between workouts. You can't continue to keep tearing down the muscle fibers without a chance for them to build back up. We only stimulate muscle growth in the gym. Building lean body mass actually occurs outside of the gym when we rest and supply nutrients to repair broken down muscle tissue. To provide an ample stimulus for adaptations to occur, we have to train at a high enough intensity. Say for instance you were performing the dumbbell chest press, and after warming up you completed a set of 10 reps, but you could have done 12 or more. Well, that's not giving your body a substantial reason to adapt with either an increase in muscle hypertrophy, strength, or endurance, as you didn't reach muscular failure. Muscular failure can be defined as reaching the point during an exercise where you can't complete another rep without sacrificing form. This is what you should aim for each set after warming up. It will provide a stimulus for change to occur, and you'll be training at a higher intensity, which means you'll be burning more calories in the process. Training intensity is crucial when it comes to results. If you go to the gym and merely go through the motions and not train a failure, or at least near failure, you'll be spinning your wheels and maintaining your current fitness level. Give it 100% with proper form during your workouts. You'll get out of it what you put into it. Muhammad Ali was infamous for saying he didn't even start counting reps until it started to burn. Now let's back up for a minute and go over the various protocols for training goals. The number of sets and reps you do to failure, along with the rest period lengths, dictate your cellular adaptations. Rest periods are the intermittent breaks you take between sets. It could be 30 seconds or 2 minutes. If strength is your primary goal, then you want to train between 3 to 5 sets per exercise, 1 to 6 reps with 2 to 5 minute rest periods. For muscle hypertrophy or increasing muscle size, optimal training is 3 to 5 sets per exercise, 8 to 12 reps with 60 to 90 second rest periods. Lastly, it's best to lower the volume when training for muscular endurance. 2 sets per exercise, 12 or more reps with short rest periods, 30 seconds. An important concept to note is that you'll be realizing all the training outcomes, strength, hypertrophy, and endurance, regardless of what protocol you follow. There's a training continuum among the different adaptations. To illustrate, you could train at 15 reps or higher and still attain some strength gains. You wouldn't be training optimally for strength, but you would get stronger comparatively to your baseline. And similarly, if you train at 1 to 6 reps per set, you'll still increase your muscular endurance to a certain level. If you click on the right side of your screen, you can download the training protocols document, which outlines the various training parameters for each goal and view the graph of the continuum. If you look at the middle of the graph for the various training criteria, you'll see muscle hypertrophy, as 8 to 12 reps falls between the strength, 1 to 6 reps, and endurance, 12 or more reps. It just so happens that ACSM recommends 8 to 12 reps for resistance training, essentially because it's in the middle of the continuum and you'll get some benefits of strength, hypertrophy, and endurance. For older populations or people that are severely deconditioned, 10 to 15 reps is the recommendation. In the FitRx program, I periodize the training protocols to ensure continual progression, meaning periodically you may do some exercises for strength or you may do a muscular endurance 4-week phase. For the most part, the program is designed with a range of 10 to 15 reps, as I do believe this is the most effective for decreasing body fat and maintaining or slightly increasing muscle. The probability of injury is less too because you'll be training with lighter loads. But if you keep all the training variables going for a long time, eventually your body is going to reach a plateau. Going back to providing a stimulus for adaptations to occur. Aside from training to failure, another factor that influences training intensity is overload. Progressive overload is the process of incrementally increasing the demands on the muscular system, which increases lean body mass and is crucial to altering body composition. How does one safely progress? You'll want to select a rep range for each exercise you do. Let's use the overhead dumbbell press as an example for this one. Say your goal is to burn fat and increase lean muscle mass. An effective rep range for this would be 10 to 12 reps. After a warm-up set, you'll want to strive to muscular failure on each successive set. Choose a load that will allow you to fail between 10 and 12 reps. If you do the set and only complete 8 reps, then that's your cue to decrease the load a little bit. Back it down maybe 5 or 10%. Now, if you fail at 10, 11, or 12 reps, you're right on track by using this load and rep range. I like to implement the 2 for 2 rule when it comes to progressing. If you're able to do 2 or more reps than your prescribed range for 2 sets, that's your indication to bump the load. Let's use 20-pound dumbbells as a load example. The next workout, you perform the overhead press again with your 10 to 12 rep range, and you get 15 reps with the 20-pounders with solid form. Then you lift the weight for 14 reps on the next set. That was 2 sets you did, 2 or more reps above your rep range. Well, it's time to up the load to 22.5 or 25-pound dumbbells, and that's progressive overload. That's it. It's anticlimactic, but effective training doesn't need to be complicated. Let's go a little deeper on what constitutes as good form. There's a couple things to consider. One is working through a full range of motion. I see it in the gym all the time, guys doing partial reps. For every rep, it's imperative you go all the way down and all the way up to the starting point. For the bicep curl, for instance, make sure you reach full extension of your arm at the bottom portion of the movement. By stretching the muscle belly entirely, you recruit more muscle fibers and you will experience better gains. You'll also indirectly improve your posture, which we'll discuss in the next module. There is a caveat to this principle. Exercises such as the bench press and overhead press may not warrant a full range of motion. The shoulder joint is highly susceptible to injury due to the nature of this ball and socket joint, being able to move through all the planes of motion, the sagittal, the horizontal, and the frontal. For the bench press, it's justified not to bring the bar all the way down to the chest to uphold the integrity of the joint. Same with the overhead press. It's acceptable to stop the bar at neck or chin level to put less strain on the rotator cuff muscles that stabilize the shoulder. With the squat, you'll want to reverse the motion when your thighs reach parallel to the ground, rather than go past 90 degrees in the knee joint, as this can be also damaging to your longevity. But doing only quarter squats isn't warranted either. You'll want to use a greater range of motion than this. In addition to using a full range of motion, rep cadence is vital to progressing and preventing injury. I also see this in the gym all the time. People lifting the weights haphazardly. This will only produce mediocre results at best, if not an injury. To understand what tempo to use, we need to examine the different muscular contractions. Let's use the bench press as an example for this one. When you unrack the weight and lower the weight down towards your chest, your pectoralis major lengthens, and this is called the eccentric contraction, or a negative. When you push the bar back up from your chest, your pectoralis muscle shortens, and this is called a concentric contraction, a positive. In between reps, when you hold the weight above your chest and there's no vertical motion, you're isometrically contracting your muscles. They're contracted, there's just no movement, kind of like flexing. Going back to rep cadence now, I'm an advocate of the 1-0-2 tempo. This ratio represents the various contractions during the portions of the lift. 1 second up for the concentric, 0 seconds in between raising and lowering, which is the isometric, and 2 seconds down, the eccentric. It's proven that the eccentric portion of the lift is what's more responsible for hypertrophic gains. When training, lower the bar slowly to ensure you're controlling the movement, and then use some power on the way up. Notice in all the examples I've used are free weight exercises. I'm a big proponent of free weights as they can be lifted in a variety of planes and angles. By doing this, the stabilizing and synergistic muscles, such as the rotator cuff, come into play and assist the movement. These muscles are important to strengthen for activities of daily living. With machines, you're locked in one plane of motion and you won't get this benefit. There are two types of exercises, multi-joint and single joint. Multi-joint or compound movements are just what they're labeled, exercises that involve two or more joints. Let's look at the lat pull down. When you pull the bar down to your chest, you're moving through the shoulder adduction to be exact, and bending the elbow flexion. Whereas during a single joint movement, also referred to as an isolation movement, you're only moving through one joint, as with the tricep pushdown, elbow extension. When designing programs, I integrate both types of movements but emphasize multi-joint. Free weight, multi-joint movements are more functional than single joint exercises, meaning they mimic the way you actually move in real life. Let's look at another example. When doing leg extensions, you're seated against the backrest and lift the weight up and down through the knee joint, a single joint movement. But how many times do you actually do that throughout the day? The squat, however, does positively transfer to your everyday activities. Say you come home with a bag of groceries in your hands and you drop your keys on the ground. Well, you need to squat down to pick up your keys without spilling over the groceries. Make sure you emphasize multi-joint free weight exercises during your workout. Free weight compound exercises will ultimately assist you in functional strength and a better quality of life. You'll also naturally release more hormones for building muscles such as testosterone and growth hormone, burn more calories, and train more efficiently by using these type of movements. Examples of these are forward lunges with dumbbell lateral raise, squat to press, and Romanian deadlift to bent over row. You can view how to perform all these movements on my FitterX YouTube channel. You'll want to start your workouts with these type of lifts before doing the single joint movements. It makes sense to do the more challenging lifts when you're fresher and less fatigued. You'll also want to start with the larger muscle groups before smaller ones. For example, back before biceps and chest before triceps. Otherwise, you'll limit the amount of load you can do and your energy will be depleted for the more taxing lifts. You shouldn't go less than 8 reps on single joint movements, such as the dumbbell lateral raise for the shoulders. This puts too much force about one joint and can lead to injury. Save the lower reps for the power multi-joint movements, such as the bench press, squat, and deadlift. I want to wrap with a principle that is often overlooked, especially the lifters that are greener to the gym, which is kinesthetic awareness. In other words, retaining a mind-to-muscle connection. As you know, it's not enough to train with the weights and simply go through the motions. It's common for me to see guys in the gym with their eyes wandering during their sets, a complete lack of focus. And anyone can pick up and heave or toss a weight around with sloppy form, but this isn't going to produce results either. When performing an exercise, focus on the specific muscles you want to target. Let's say it's the back during the seated cable row. If you don't concentrate on pulling with the back muscles, chances are your biceps are going to kick in and do the brunt of the work. Imagine your arms as hooks or links to the weight and visualize your back muscles pulling the weight back. The mind is extremely powerful and dictates which muscles kick in. Between now and our next module on Total Body Blueprint on flexibility, try a quick experiment on the mind-muscle connection. Perform 10 reps of push-ups from the knees if need be, by first focusing on the pecs doing the work. Take 1 to 2 minute rest and then do another set of push-ups focusing on the triceps. You'll discover how simply focusing on a specific muscle will change the field of movement. The fundamentals you implement throughout this module will correlate to your success in changing your body composition and improving your overall health. With the FitRx program, you don't have to get bogged down in the details. I've studied this subject my whole life, earned a master's degree in the area, and tailored a specific program based on the needs analysis of 95% of the clients I've worked with. Click on the program button above and you can learn more about the details, including a mobile app with the capacity to log and track your workouts throughout the periodized program. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me.